Hello everyone, welcome to my relationship video 1, and today I'm going to teach you how to find a person's spouse or the type of people a person partners with, like boyfriends, girlfriends, that kind of thing. This is a very involved subject and there's lots of nuances to it, so I'm going to go down the list of things that I look for when trying to discern the kind of person that someone is attracted to and the kind of person my client will marry. Because that's one of the main things I'm asked when I do consultations. So so follow along. Okay, so so things that you must consider when evaluating potential partners and the spouse. There's a few things. There's about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things, okay? And you have to take into consideration all of these things, especially in the West where people are married more than once, and they're, even in the East as well, they do that as well. And if you see one influence and the person has already fulfilled that influence by being married to someone who is what you see in the chart, and then you see another influence, that might be the type of person they marry again. So, or somebody that they get into a long relationship, not necessarily marry, or, living together situation, what have you. But anyway, I'll explain all that as I go through these, okay? So things to consider when evaluating the spouse and the partners. The first is the 7th house cusp, and this is not in order of importance. I found that all of these can be equally important, so I'm not listing these in order of importance. Just want to say that, okay? All right, so the 7th house cusp, and planets conjoined the 7th house cusp and aspecting the 7th house cusp. The cusp is the being. The cusp is the created thing. In Sanskrit, it's called bhava, and bhava means becoming or being. And it's the actual created thing here on planet Earth, okay? So whenever you see a planet in the 7th house, that planet has a lot to say about what that person is attracted to, okay, and who they may marry, who it represents their spouse, who they partner with, okay. That's one. Number 2, the 7th lord. The 7th lord is the planet that rules the 7th house, or the planet that rules the sign where the 7th house cusp falls, okay, simple. Any planets conjoined the 7th lord and aspecting the 7th lord, and also, in addition to those two things, the dispositor of the 7th lord. The dispositor is the ruler of the 7th lord. Dispositors are very important in Vedic astrology because they are actually responsible for that planet. They create that planet. They influence that planet by that planet being in their sign that they rule. So that's also very important to look at, okay? Now, number 3. This is a Jaimini technique. And I'll say, when it's Jaimini, I'll point that out, okay? And I've found, in my experience, Jaimini is extremely accurate when it comes to these things. So anyway, the 7th from the AK, or the 7th from the Atmakaraka in the Navamsa for the spouse, the placement of the Atmakaraka in the Navamsa is called the Swa. It's just the sign of the Atmakaraka in the Navamsa. And the Navamsa is the 9th divisional chart, an extremely important chart in the Vedic system, probably the most important after the actual birth chart, okay? Especially for marriage. Now, it's different for people who are attracted, who have boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, and not necessarily you marry these people. That's the saptamsa, that's the 7th divisional chart. That's different. If you're even in a living together situation, that's still the saptamsa. Getting married legally is something that is exclusively in the realm of the Navamsa, or the 9th divisional chart. So, okay, and that's the type of, in the saptamsa, it's the type of person the client is attracted to, and the kind of girlfriends or boyfriends they have, okay? And not necessarily who they will marry. All right, so then the next one is the Dara Karaka. Okay, Dara means spouse. And Jaimini has a system of Karakas, and it's a 7-planet system. Some people use an 8-planet system. I don't use that system, but you know, whatever. So I use the 7-planet system, and the Atma Karaka is the planet with the highest degrees in a sign. The Dara Karaka, which is the Karaka means producer. So the Atma Karaka produces the Atma, or the person, right? The person in this world. Now the Dara Karaka is the producer of the spouse. So whatever planet that is, that's going to have a lot to say about the kind of person the client will marry, okay? And that is the planet with the lowest degrees in a sign. So if you have, let's say you have Saturn at 29 degrees Aries, and you've got the moon at 1 degree Aries, most likely that's the lowest it can be, or, you know, like 47 seconds or something like that. That is the Dara Karaka. It's the planet with the lowest degrees in a sign, okay? So that has a lot to say about who the person marries and is attracted to. Okay, the placement of Venus, aspects to Venus, or any planet Venus is conjoined, and also the dispositor of Venus in the birth chart, in the 9th divisional chart, the Navamsa, and the 7th divisional chart, the saptamsa. Okay, the saptamsa is a chart of desire. You know, it's what we desire, and what we desire may become our spouse, but not all the time, not necessarily. Okay, and then the next one, in the placement of Jupiter for women. In the man's chart, Venus is the wife or the girlfriend. That's what Venus rules. In a woman's chart, Venus rules marriage, but the husband or the boyfriend is ruled by Jupiter. Okay, so the placement of Jupiter, any aspects to Jupiter, any planets Jupiter is conjoined, or the dispositor of Jupiter. Okay, so, and then the next one is the dispositor, or the ruler of the 7th lord in the birth chart, in the Navamsa, and in the saptamsa. 7th divisional chart and the 9th divisional chart. If you look at all of these things, I know it's a lot, but, you know, people are complicated. There's going to be a lot of aspects to a person. You know, their appearance, their age, you know, their career, any injuries they may have, any sicknesses they have. That's all has to be taken into account when trying to discern who the person will marry and who they partner with, right? So that's a lot of things to look at. But I'm going to give you some examples, and you'll see how this works. It's very enlightening. Okay, so you have to understand. You have to have a thorough understanding of what the planets represent in Parasara and Jaimini, according to both of those men. And the reason I use, you know, a lot of people ask me, why do you use Parasara and Jaimini? Why not use, you know, some of the other authors that came in the medieval times? And the reason I do that, and I do use some of those people or those authors, and I do use some of those books that were written in the medieval times, but Parasara is very thorough, and so is Jaimini. And they have their own systems, but the main reason is because they were considered to be rishis. They were considered to be, you know, seers. That's what rishi means. And they were, you know, yogis, highly advanced spiritual souls. And they were given this information in contemplation, not just through trial and error. Well, I'm sure they did that as well, but they were considered to be, you know, like any of our saints would be today, or any of the Indian rishis today. They were considered to be that. So that's why I use them. That's one of the main reasons. Okay. So anyway, knowing the what everything a planet represents, everything a planet rules is so important. And that's all in according to Parasara and Jaimini, and it's all in their texts. So, okay. So today I'm going to use an example. I got Ava Gardner here. She's a really good example. I'm going to use a few more examples. I might make another video because this is going to be long. It's, there's just so many things to take into account. We're going to go through all the planets. So I just may, break this up into a few videos. So yeah, bear with me. Now, okay, so like I said, the 7th divisional chart is the chart of desire, but it also means it's the chart of sex and sexual intercourse and the product of sexual intercourse, which is children. And so it's also a very indicative chart of the person's children and how many children they will have. You actually look at this chart when you do Jaimini techniques or Parasara techniques. So it's like, who you're attracted to and who you partner with, and that means sexual intercourse and the product of the sexual intercourse, which is children. So yeah, that's all the things that the saptamsa, the 7th divisional chart, indicates. Now, and then the Navamsa, like I said, is married life, but it's actually more than that. It's the Navamsa shows how grounded we are in our path of life. So, or how happy we are with our path of life. And the path of life is really the birth chart, okay? And all of the different nuances are in the divisional charts. All of the details are in the divisional charts, but the main path of life is the natal chart, okay, or the Rashi, as they say. And the Navamsa shows how happy we are with that path and how grounded we are in that path. It shows, if we're, let's say we become, we wanted to become a big movie star, and we do it. That's our path in life. But then we get addicted to drugs, or and we're partying all the time, or we're like Johnny Depp, or we're getting sexually harassed. Whatever it is, we're not happy with that. It doesn't fulfill us, and that's going to show in the Navamsa. Okay, that's going to show how happy we are with where we're going. If we're not happy with it, then, really, what's the point, right? So when you see a trashed Navamsa, when you see someone has a lot of debilitated planets, or they have, bad aspects to those planets, it's called Lajitati Avashas. Well, that's another video, but then you're going to see someone who might have a great path. You may look at the Rashi chart or the natal chart and say, wow, you're going to be famous, you're going to be rich, blah, 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 but they have a trash Navamsa. That usually means they're not very happy with what they're doing, right? They hate it. It's not fulfilling them psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually. So yeah, okay, that's what the Navamsa is. A lot of people say that Navamsa is the chart where it starts to come more into play as you get older. I don't really find that to be true. I find it's always in play, but it's just how grounded you are and how happy you are with where you are in life at any given time, okay? And that's also dependent on dashas. If you're in a dasha of a planet that's exalted in the natal chart, and then it's debilitated in the Navamsa, or the 9th divisional chart, then, you may have great things happen, but you're not really that into it. You're not happy with it, okay? So, anyway, moving on. And also they call it the chart of Dharma, the Navamsa, which loosely translates as duty, but it doesn't even really mean that, really. It kind of means duty mixed in with inspiration. There's not really an English word for that. Sorry, I'm talking. Okay. So now, where are we? Okay. So I'm going to explain I'm going to use an example here. I'm actually going to go through all the planets and what Jaimini says. This is the Jaimini technique exclusively right now that I'm talking about. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about Parasara here, in Ava Gardner's chart. So, okay, so for the sun, this is what Jaimini says about the sun. Now, this is the technique of the planet in the 7th house from the Swa, or the planet in the 7th house from the Atmakaraka in the Navamsa. So let's say you have your Atmakaraka in Libra in the Navamsa, not the birth chart, but in the Navamsa, in the 9th divisional chart. The 7th from that is Aries. Okay, so let's say you have Mars and Rahu there. So that is, that would be, you would look at Mars and Rahu for the spouse of that person. Okay, and to see the description of the spouse. All right. So now this is the technique that I'm referring to. Okay, so the description of the sun. The sun is, all right, he says, in one's own race, which is rasa, R-A-S-A, a hidden, protected woman, a married woman who withdraws from her lover's endearments. Okay, so in one own's race, rasa, and there's also, Jaimini says, if Rahu's in the 7th, you're going to marry a foreigner. And then in the sun, he says one's own race. But I really had a problem with this. I don't think that's what it means, because in these times it was a given for a person to marry someone in their own country or someone in their own race. It was just a given. We didn't have all this traveling and population moving as much going on. It was really it was really kind of until the invention of like cars and airplanes, even bicycles. They were saying, they did a study about this. In the old days, people married everybody in their own town, or in the next town over. And it was very unusual for people to marry outside of their race or outside of their caste even, or outside of their, tribe or whatever it was. And so I think that what this means is what rasa really means is essence. It's the essence of something. They even say in the medical astrology videos I did, he was talking about taste. And taste is the same word, rasa. That means taste. But what it means really is essence. So it's the same essence. So it's a person who marry someone who is really in the same kind of mindset, in the same kind of even profession, the same kind of, is interested in the same things, does the same things, has the same kind of mentality as the client. It's somebody who really is kind of the same as you, or it's somebody who's already married or already taken. It can be either or it can be both. I've seen it both ways. It can be one or the other, or it can be both. Okay, that's what the sun means. And the 7th from the Swa, or the Atmakaraka and the Navamsa. Okay, all right. So that's the sun, and I'm gonna illustrate this in Ava Gardner's chart in a minute. Okay. So the moon and Jupiter influencing the 7th, or in the 7th, is a beautiful woman. That's what Jaimini says. But it also means a beautiful man, and it just means somebody who is above average in attractiveness. Okay? Now this is Jaimini's descriptions. The moon and Jupiter means something else in Parasara, so you have to take all of the meanings together. Okay? But right now I'm just doing Jaimini. So moon and Jupiter make somebody good looking. If they're in the 7th from the AK and the Navamsa. You can look in the birth chart as well for these. But it really gets, honed down in the Navamsa. And then for people that they're attracted to, you can look in the saptamsa. So if the moon or Jupiter is in the 7th from the Atmakaraka and the 7th divisional chart, they're attracted to very good-looking people, okay? Or they get into partnerships with very good-looking people. Okay, so Rahu is a widow or one bereft of her country, or a foreigner. So it can either be a widow, or it can be someone who's heartbroken over somebody else, who's thinking about somebody else all the time, but they're going to get into a relationship or get married with the client, with the person represented by the Atmakaraka, okay? So it can be either or it can be both, okay? It can be a foreigner who is also still in love with somebody else, or it can be somebody else, or someone who's in love with somebody else, or it can be a foreigner, okay? All right, Saturn. Saturn in the 7th from the Atmakaraka, and you can look in all three of these. You can look in the birth chart, the saptamsa for attraction, the Navamsa for marriage, okay? Saturn is 7 years old, at least 7 years older. That's a Saturnian age difference. The person is at least 7 years older, or a diseased woman, or someone who is lame. That's basically all it means, lame. And then, or an ascetic, someone who it really wants to be on the path of kind of a monkish nun type path, yogini path, where they're meditating all the time and they don't really care about the world. They don't care about getting out in the world and making a living or getting a career. They just want to be an ascetic and humble and, try to worship God all the time and meditate all the time. That's an ascetic, all right? And doesn't need a lot, They don't spend a lot of money. They have no interest in that kind of thing, all right? So Saturn could be any one of those three. Mars. A person or a woman, he says a woman, but it's either a man or a woman. It works for both. A woman with imperfect, impaired limbs, all right? So what that means is someone who's had, a lot of surgeries on their arms or knees or legs, hands, or, they've broken their arm a bunch of times and it doesn't really work quite well, or they were born with a deformed limb, or one leg's longer than the other, something like that. It's not Saturn. Saturn is lameness. Saturn is people who can't walk, people who are crippled, people who are diseased, have really serious health problems. That's Saturn, but Mars is more in the limbs. It's talking about the limbs. They have defective limbs somewhere. So that's what Mars means. Okay, Mercury. Mercury is one skilled in the arts. So an artist, a craftsman, that's what Mercury means. And that's what Jaimini says Mercury means as the Atmakaraka as well. But that's only one thing. Mercury can also mean business people in marketing, communications, that thing. But Jaimini specifically says an artist or, someone skilled in the arts, and that also includes performing arts. Okay, he doesn't say anything about Venus or Ketu. Ketu, what I've seen is Ketu separates people. So what I've seen when Ketu's in the 7th from the Atmakaraka, Ketu causes separation and divorce, or permanent separation, because Ketu is all about finishing up and completing karmas, and once you're finished with it, you're finished with it. It balances whatever you needed to balance, and it perfects whatever you needed to perfect, and then it's over, right? That's what I've seen with who people, they have Ketu in the 7th from the Atmakaraka, and I've also seen this when they have a Ketu Venus conjoined very closely. The person usually ends up being alone in their older years, and that's okay. They feel fine with it. They're actually glad not to be in a relationship because they don't do very well in a relationship. But that's just what I've seen. So, but he doesn't say anything about it. So, and then Venus, he doesn't say anything about Venus either. But Parasara says Venus. Parasara actually says Venus in the 7th from the Atmakaraka will make the spouse, the person's spouse, or the client's spouse, will make the person's spouse sexy and devoted and enamored, meaning the person is very devoted to their significant other and they're sexy. Okay. All right. So that's it for that. All right. Yeah, I went all through them all. This is just the Jaimini technique. Tomorrow or the next day I'll talk about some other, the other things that Parasara says. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Ava Gardner. And can you see Ava here? This is Ava Gardner's chart. She has a Cancer ascendant, and she's got the Sun and Mercury in the 7th house. Okay, so the 7th house is going to be a Sun person and a Mercury person, or a combination of both. And in addition to that, her Dara Karaka, the producer of the spouse, is the Sun. Okay, Ava Gardner was married to Mickey Rooney, and then she was married to Frank Sinatra. Okay, and now remember, Jaimini also says the Sun makes a person a singer. It makes a person a singer, and Mercury can make a person an actor. Frank Sinatra was an actor and a singer, and Mickey Rooney was an actor. Okay, and okay, so she's got the Sun as a Dara Karaka, the Sun in the 7th. So the Sun is extremely powerful for her. Frank Sinatra was married when they started having an affair. Okay, so it fulfills a couple of those. And Frank Sinatra and Mickey Rooney really were both in the entertainment business, just like she was. So that makes them the same essence, or the same rasa, right? And then later on in life, Ava Gardner moved to Spain, and she lived in Spain, and she had a lot of bullfighter lovers. She had lovers who were bullfighters, Spanish bullfighters. So, and so that shows up in her other chart, or her Navamsa. I think she was actually living with one at one point. This actually shows up in her Navamsa, not in her saptamsa. But she has Rahu in the 7th from her Atmakaraka. So that also fulfills that foreigner requirement. Now, usually you don't really see that if the person doesn't marry in the Navamsa, but in her case you do see that. So, but this is really a good example, Ava Gardner's chart. So, okay, so that's it for this video. I'm going to make a few more videos going into more detail, and we're going to do some more charts and show you how this works, because it works extremely well. I'm going to do Paul McCartney, Eleanor Roosevelt, Emmanuel Macron, the current French president. He's really interesting because he married somebody who's 24 years older than him. And at first you're like, oh, it's Saturn, that would be easy. Okay, yeah, Saturn is. It has a lot to do, but it's not as prominent as you would think. That's where the dispositors come in. So we're going to do a few charts and we'll talk about that. Okay, so thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.